Welcome to the Victorian Archives Centre and our 2021 Open House Tour. I'm Jack Martin, Acting Manager of Collection Management here at Public Record Office Victoria. Public Record Office Victoria, or PROV, has since 1973 been the archives of the State Government of Victoria. The majority of the collection is stored here at the Victorian Archives Centre. And today myself, along with Kate, Daniel and Sebastian from PROV, and also Emily from the National Archives of Australia, are going to give you a behind the scenes tour. So let's go inside and start. This is our reading room. Each year we welcome over 9,000 members of the public to whom we issue over 45,000 records. We also issue an additional 6,000 records to government agency users. If you visit our reading room, you can speak to our staff, use our computers and digitising facilities, and request copies of records. Around about 40% of our visitors are doing genealogical research, and the other 60% are journalists, professional researchers, tertiary students, local historians, and many are simply people who are visiting us for a legal or other practical reason. We share this reading room with the National Archives of Australia. This is our North Melbourne repository. The conditions here are perfect for paper, 19 to 20 degrees Celsius and 45 to 50% relative humidity. Our collection size passed 100 linear kilometres in 2014, and we also have smaller regional collections in Ballarat, Bendigo, Beechworth and Geelong. Our collection includes records covering a wide range of topics. These include premiers and governors, royal commissions, court cases, land ownership and use, schools and major departments, to name just a few. For Open House 2021, we're focusing on the theme of reconnection and exploring records connecting us with family, the environment and our local neighbourhoods.
If you're interested in records about the environment or conservation, they obviously come in a variety of forms. But if you're interested in specific subjects such as climate change, then we do have records about climate change, but you just need to be careful about the keywords that you may search on. So you could search for records specific to climate change by typing in that keyword, but also try other buzzwords such as greenhouse or ozone, and you may find that issues related to climate change come under that particular terminology of that time. Another way to find records, reports or correspondence files about those important issues is to look at royal commissions. So royal commissions into the bushfires, for example, also looked at the history of environmental management and rising temperatures over time. Now, if you're interested in something like pollution, then you may find reports into a whole range of investigations into pollution from the Department of Fisheries, for example, looking at pollution in our waterways, but also air pollution, which may have been measured by local councils. For less obvious records, you could also look at our historic plan collection, because our historic plan collection goes back to 1802 right up until 1923. And in the historic plan collection, there are coastal survey maps, which document a whole range of topographical detail. And you could ultimately look at that topographical detail and compare it to coastal surveys taken today to have a look and compare things like tidal change. One of my favourite records related to efforts to improve the environment I found inside a manila folder produced by the Ministry of Transport in 1976. And it's a whole bunch of records that were collected at a conference called the Management of Urban Air Quality. And inside the manila folder I found a poster for a car produced by a Victorian called Ted Pritchard, and he produced a steam engine to power a Ford Falcon, a 1963 Ford Falcon, and he was able to prove that it was a very much a viable alternative to the lead-based petrol engine. And in fact, in 1974, 10 years later, when his car was gaining interest, the Ford company did a measurement of the pollution found in the hydrocarbons of the tailpipe of the Pritchard steam car and discovered that it met environmental standards that we weren't able to see for another 25 years. Unfortunately, like many innovative environmental solutions, it didn't make it into full-scale industrial production, despite a lot of interest in the steam engine. But he was able to, before he died, able to produce the S5000, which is a very small steam engine that produces heat and energy using wood and waste. And it's now been patented and it's being used in developing countries all around the world. So this is the original poster for the Pritchard steam car of the future, here now. Obviously not.
The focal point of the second community outbreak of COVID-19 in 2020 swiftly became the Housing Commission flats in North Melbourne and Flemington, where 3,000 people were ordered to stay home. I watched the human drama unfold from my own apartment window across the road. These iconic Melbourne towers dominate the surrounding landscapes, and variations on their designs can be seen in suburbs as far apart as Prahran and Williamstown. The Housing Commission of Victoria kept very good records about the design and construction of these flats that have been constructed all over inner Melbourne, and they give us an insight into the places that many immigrant communities have called home over the past few decades in Melbourne, and an insight also into the very ambitious program of the Housing Commission to build social housing in the city, a responsibility that they had since 1938. The correspondence files of the Housing Commission contain mainly letters, but they also contain many plans and architectural drawings relating to the design and the fit out of the flats. Not only the Flemington flats, but also those all around Melbourne. The first part of the housing project at Debney Estate was a number of 4-storey flats that were located along Victoria Street in Flemington, and only subsequently was the first of the 20-storey towers built adjacent to Racecourse Road. Among the records, there's many that document the kind of attention that was paid to tree plantings and landscaping and children's facilities. And one of the key people involved in overseeing that work was landscape architect Margaret Hendry, who was also a landscape architect for the city of Canberra earlier. By 1956, the Housing Commission had built over 32,000 units for families to move into. But by that time, they had started to also look at removing what they called slums from the inner city. And that led them into conflict with a lot of local communities in inner suburbs where people did not see their own homes as slums or their neighbourhoods as places that needed to be eradicated. So the Housing Commission had to make compromises with many of these communities, and the scale of the kind of redevelopment that they were seeking to undertake had to be made smaller. For instance, in Carlton, large sections of residential neighbourhoods and even the Lygon shopping and restaurant strip that we know today, that would have gone to make way for completely modern buildings and car parks that would have been constructed by the Housing Commission. Records can give us an insight into the kind of compromise that was struck in that urban landscape that we still see today everywhere in Melbourne, where you have houses for people on relatively low incomes and limited means sitting right side by side the amazing Victorian architecture of the 19th century.
The National Archives holds records created by federal government agencies. However, that doesn't mean that we just hold reports or minutes of meetings. Our collection is also rich with the histories of individual people. One of the most significant parts of our collection relates to immigration, and this dates from Federation in 1901 right through to the 1980s. The National Archives has a wider range of immigration records than Public Record Office Victoria, because immigration is and was regulated by the federal government. The National Archives holds immigration records such as citizenship applications, passenger arrivals and departures, migrant selection documents, and registration cards. One of the best things about being an archival officer is seeing people use our records to reconnect. Sometimes this reconnecting is with their own family history by exploring the documents their ancestors left behind. And sometimes this connecting is with their current family members by exploring a sense of shared history or presenting family members with copies of their own records that they didn't know had ever been kept. One of the most incredible things you can find in our immigration records are personal documents and photographs. In this citizenship application, we have the woman's original passport, her notification of marriage, and her incoming passenger card. This provides us with 3 different photographs of her, some of which may have never been seen by her family before. And here we have an alien registration document for an elderly Chinese woman who arrived in Australia over 120 years ago. At the time, aliens were people who weren't British citizens or Irish citizens. You can see on this record, along with an incredible photograph, we also have a copy of her fingerprints preserved. It can be pretty fantastic to find fingerprints on a record, as they are very personal items. Photographs can be very professional looking, but fingerprints are highly significant as they are a trace of your own ancestors. If you would like to begin your search for records from home, a general name search is always an excellent starting point. Here in the Record Search Basic Search screen, which I navigated to via our website, you can begin by typing in a name. We also have an advanced search if you want to narrow your results, and an excellent passenger arrival index that specifically searches for arrivals via ship and plane. However, if you don't find anything, don't feel discouraged. Our catalogue only shows a portion of the records we actually hold. You can always submit an inquiry to us via our website, and we can use extra resources not available to the public to help assist you with your search. Here in Melbourne, our immigration records take up almost 5 kilometres of shelf space, and this totals over 300,000 individual items. Who knows what you'll find to help you connect, both personally and on a larger level. It's important to remember that all of these individual stories make up a larger picture of life in Australia for the individuals that chose to move here, become Australian, and make this their home.
The Victorian Archives Centre holds records in a number of different formats. Whilst the overwhelming majority of records are paper, we also hold photographs, photographic negatives, and motion picture film, which we store in our cool room. The environmental conditions in the repository will maximise the longevity of each of these different formats. We also have a digital archive for storing records which have never existed in any physical form. The most common preservation problem for paper records is either mould, water damage, or red rot, whilst for other formats such as photographic negatives, it's the inherent shorter longevity of the physical media. In either case, arguably, the most effective preservation measure that we can take is digitising. We can remediate a record to make it safe to handle, digitise it, and then we'll rarely, if ever, have to handle the record again.
We have been digitising records for nearly 2 decades now and are approaching 1 million records on our website, which is a lot, but it's still only a small fraction of the total records we hold. We've done digitising with a variety of partners, including volunteers and large genealogical organisations. We use a variety of equipment to capture records, including cameras for volumes and other large items, high-speed flatbed scanners for paper files, and map and plan scanners for very large maps. We also have specialised scanners for odd formats such as aperture cards and negatives.
Whether records are physical or digital, you can search for them on PROV's website. This relies on the existence of electronic listings, and for many records transferred from the mid-1990s and earlier, those listings don't exist. Both staff and volunteers are working to make sure that data is created and is available and discoverable on PROV's website. You can use PROV's catalogue or our topic pages to discover records of interest. For those records that aren't already digitised, our staff will then pick the records and deliver them to the reading room for you to view. Records are not stored in any particular order in the repository. Our system simply tracks where a container is located and directs staff there to collect the records. The records are then either digitised if copies have been requested or delivered up to the reading room. We hope you've enjoyed this behind the scenes tour of the Victorian Archives Centre. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you again soon.